that you know that it's either time to move on from a horse or time to put more time into them and try to take them to the next level?
Um, so that's a really good question. Um, I think a lot of it has to do with your goals personally. Um, as an individual, what my goals are, what someone else's goals are probably different. Um, if if I get to a point where a horse that I'm struggling, and when I say struggling, I don't mean that I'm having to think and dig deeper into my horsemanship to be successful. But when I say struggling, like I'm kind of dreading having to go ride that horse every day, or I feel like I'm not making headway. Uh, I, since this isn't what the only thing I do for a living, I'll kind of take a step back and I have a guy that Ty rides with me all the time, and I'll have him ride him for a week or so, and I'll just kind of watch the horse with someone else riding it, and I'll say, okay, is this an Austin problem or is this an individual problem? Um, and I don't think, you know, 10 years ago, if you'd, I would have never done that because my ego was kind of big at that point. But now I think, after enough life and being humbled quite frequently, uh, I don't think I have a problem standing back and saying, okay, I want to watch someone else ride this horse and see, is it something I'm doing? Is it something I can see and try to redirect? Um, or like, I mean, I had 1 2 year old not long ago. I just didn't like the individual riding him. I thought he felt terrible. And I watched Ty riding. I'm like, man, that colt moves great. I need to figure out what I'm feeling and figure out how to get around it or how to correct it. Um, and that colt came on and did just fine. But sometimes you have to take a step back and watch and evaluate. Now, if he rides him and I watch the horse, and I'm like, this just doesn't fit my program. Um, I I call the owner and I'll say, hey, like this is where we are. This is what I'm doing. I said, you're paying me to do a job, and I'm going to do it. But I just want you to know, like, I don't know if I can get this horse to meet the goal that you set for it or what we discussed or where you wanted it to go. And then I kind of let them decide. Some of them will say, keep trying. And some of them will say, okay, well, I'll come pick them up. And I think just being honest and having that conversation has really led to a great long-term relationships with my owners. Um, the first time I called somebody and said, I don't think this is going to work, my throat was in my stomach because I was young and I was like, you don't get to say that. You haven't won enough. You don't get the right to say this isn't going to work. I thought, you just have to try harder, but it wasn't working. And that client I still have horses for to this day, and it helped me a lot. But I think a lot of it was I was scared to admit like it's not going to work. On my personal horses, if I'm riding them and I don't think, I mean, truthfully, if it doesn't just feel great to me, I I kind of channel them to where I think they're going to be successful for someone else because I work about 16 to 18 hours on a normal day, sometimes more. So I don't want to put my time into something that I just don't love because I know I'm never going to give it the best chance that it could have. So for me, I guess if it's not going great and I don't see greatness or there's not something that I'm hanging on to, then I try to either have the conversation with the owner or I try to redirect it if it's my horse to, go be a ranch horse or go to someone that don't want a futurity horse and move on. And it's not that they aren't great horses. It's just I'm looking for a very, very specific individual.
And you make a lot of good points there on, well, first of all, that's got to be an incredibly hard conversation and with the owner. And I know that it doesn't come lightly and there's a lot of thought that goes into that. But you're right. And it doesn't always mean that they're a bad horse. They might not just fit your program. They might do better with somebody else's program that fits their style a little more. That we all have our styles, right? And I know that when I was younger, I would put so much more time into a horse that wasn't as good because it needed it. And then the good horses
Mm-hmm.
just kind of set on the back burner because they didn't need as much attention as that horse that just, you're like, man, I'm putting a ton of time in this horse. He's still not coming along, but maybe I just need to put more time into him. And then, this other one sits over here that could use that time. You could take a horse from good to great instead of mediocre to good. And I just think that's a very mature way to look at it, and being able to, one, ask questions and set your own ego aside and have someone else give you a second opinion on, like, is this me, is it the horse, what's going on here, and then being able to be honest with yourself of, this horse is not for me, this horse does not fit my program. It could probably do well in this person's program, or you're right, maybe it needs a change in discipline and needs to go be a rope horse or be a ranch horse or something. I think those are all great points.
And like a prime example, a good friend of mine I had a horse for a client from Kansas City, 2 years ago. And I had the horse and he was doing pretty good, but I just couldn't get him to great. He was good. He wasn't great. And I had a friend that was kind of looking for a horse. A good horse was hurt. And I said, hey, like, I have this one. I talked to the owners. They just want out of it. They want to start over with another one. And I said, come try him, see if you like him. Or she came and tried him. She liked him. She bought him. She called me 2 or 3 months later and said, hey, I need help. I said, bring him to the house. Like, let's figure it out. Helped her. And then last year at the Futurities, I she ended up outrunning me on that horse a couple times and doing well on him. And then she sold him for a lot of money. But that was the only horse she was riding, like, she had the time to put into that one and it clicked for them. And I stood there and clapped for her, because either way, it was still a success for my program because the horse came from my program. So in the horse industry, you can't have an ego. If you want to be successful, you can't have an ego.
Yeah. And that's a really hard thing to come back. It takes a lot of self-work and a lot of self-reflection to be able to come to that conclusion. And not everybody is looking for that 1D gonna blow everybody's socks off horse, because they can't. That's maybe not their goal. That's maybe not in their skill set or what they're looking for. Maybe they just want a good 2D, 3D horse that they want to go on because they want to have fun and it's gentle and easy to be around, and it makes barrel racing fun for them too. They may not be looking for that fire breathing dragon that's going to go lay down a run and win every single jackpot or win every single rodeo. And same deal in the rope horse industry. I mean, you're not always training. I mean, your goal, if you're a high level trainer, is to always, have that open caliber horse or have that horse that's going to go compete at a pro rodeo level. But that's not always realistic. Them horses, it's just like people trying to train for the pros. There's only so many that are going to make it to that level.
Yeah.
And with the breeding and the incentives and everything else, you're kind of hedging your bets on some of that. But the fact is not everybody competes at that level, and those people need horses too. So the old man that wants to go roping the 50 plus number 9, he needs a horse too. And maybe that horse is gentle and patterned enough that in the roping that that would be a good fit for him. He doesn't need that open caliber horse that's gonna, just blow him back in the box and everything out. He just needs one that's gonna run out there and do its job and leave smooth and be gentle to be around, and something that he can go saddle once a month and take to the roping or something. And same thing for those barrel racers.
I think that's a good point. I think because I do a lot of pre-purchases in my veterinary practice, and I think if people would buy what they need instead of what they think they need, they would be a lot happier and enjoy their horses a lot more. But that's not my place to say as a veterinarian when I pre-purchase. But like you see people, I don't want to say buying or over mounting themselves, because if you have the money to spend and you want to go buy those great horses, like, good for you, and maybe you'll better yourself, and that horse will teach you something. Like, that's great. But I think a lot of people, they want to buy that 1D horse, or that horse that you can go roping the 15 on, and they don't compete on that level. And then they kind of get frustrated because they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this horse and they're still not winning. But that wasn't the horse they needed to win on. They need the one that's going to put them in the right spot to catch every time, or they need the one that's going to find the first barrel every time you take off down the alley. And that wasn't the horse you were looking for, because you didn't shop for what you need, shop for what you thought you needed or wanted, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's a hard thing to take a look at yourself, and especially as you get older and maybe your goals change or your body changes or whatever, and getting a horse that fits you, and that's better for the horse. It's better for you. I mean, it prevents injury, and if you can ride that horse correctly and be able to stay with it the right way, and then it also prevents injury in the horse too, being able to ride that horse correctly and help it in the correct way and be in the right position for it as it goes throughout those turns, and you'll probably encounter less problems by getting a horse that fits you and your level, whatever that may be. There's
Right.
horses out there for all people and all levels.
And when you talk about levels, I think, like, I'm gonna get on a soapbox here for a minute, but you
All
know,
right.
I love kids. I love watching kids learn. I love watching them progress. My best friend Scamper, her daughter's, I've got to watch her since she was little, and now she rides phenomenal. I mean, she's got a natural seat. But the one thing I think Scamper's done really well with her, and I'm just picking on her, using her for an example, is she's always progressed her. She's not riding the same individual she was 2 years ago or even a year ago. I mean, she right now she's moved up and she's riding a what used to be a really, really nice horse. He's in retirement, or Scamper brought him back out of retirement for him. And when I see some parents, and I'm not picking on parenting because I don't have kids, so my opinion is just my opinion. But when you're picking a horse for your child, you have to pick one at the level they're on that day. And no, in 6 months, that level may be different. They may need a step up horse then. That or if you think I'm going to buy them a horse that they're going to enjoy, and go high school rodeo on, but the kid's only 10, they probably can't ride that horse right now. I mean, some kids can, but like their development is so drastic that you have to keep putting them on the right level horse, because it changes so quickly with their brain development, their body developing. I think that's a big thing that nobody talks about in the Western performance horse world. But in the English world, you'll see they do like 1 year leases, because they know the children change so much, they're going to need a different mount in a year. And I don't think that would work in the Western world. But I guess the point I'm making is, when your child's developing, make sure you're progressive and you're putting them on the right level of horse. Don't overmount them where it's dangerous to them and they get hurt. Because if they do, they may never want to ride again, or God forbid they really get hurt bad. I mean, nothing's worse than seeing a child hurt. Like, you don't want to ruin it for them.
Right. And no one wants to see that as a seller or as a buyer. I mean, no one or a parent, no one wants to see that. And so being honest about what your horse is, and if it's a good fit, and having people come try it. I mean, I think that's the most important part for us, is just making sure that our horses go to somebody that it's a good fit for them, and that they're going to get along with them, and the horse is what it is, and I think that, you know, you always get asked a question in the horse world of, well, is your horse kid safe? Well, I don't know your kid. I mean, I don't
Exactly.
know what level your kid is at. So is it kids? I mean, I don't know. I don't, and these animals are unpredictable. And that's just being honest. It doesn't matter if that horse is a certain type of way. With me, I don't have kids either. I've never had a kid on my horse. And so I don't know if he's kid safe, to be completely honest. And so that's just a hard question to be asked and answer. And I might say, like, I think this horse will be good for like a confident junior high or high school rodeo kid, or something like that, or kid that rides a lot or whatever, because like they're not going to buck or spook or run off or do anything crazy, but they have that extra gear that
Right.
if that person isn't ready, and they're not with him, it's going to end just as badly as if that horse bucked or whatever else. And so I again, that's one of the things in this industry that one of the questions that you get asked that it's hard to answer because you don't sometimes most of the time you don't know those people or their kid.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tricky situation for sure.
So, well, man, I could talk all day about this stuff with you and everything else. Is there anything that you would want people to know either about what you do or the fraternity world?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's anything specific to say. I think if I was going to say one thing to anybody listening, is that you have whatever you decide to do, whether you're roping, you're running barrels, you're say just not even about horses. Say it's about life. Say you got a new job or you picked up something, a new trade. Like it's okay to start from the beginning, and it's okay to make mistakes, but you have to stay hungry and work. It takes work to get to where you want to be, and it takes work to stay there. But always kind of give yourself a little bit of mercy in the process.
Right. And you go as hard as anybody I've ever seen in your practice. I mean, you know, we're at bonus race and it's 10 o'clock and you're still doctoring on horses and looking at them and helping people try to figure out those issues. And then, you might not get home till 2, 3 a.m. and then boom, you're up at 5, 6, back at it again, looking at all those horses. And I think that's another thing that I appreciate about you too, is just the amount of reps that you get. I mean, you see a ton of horses in multiple disciplines, whether it be on the track or rodeo horses or just whatever. I mean, you look at a ton of horses every day and just having that experience, there's no substitute for it. And like you and I have talked before, there's stuff that we might have done or didn't know early in our career that we know now. They were like, ooh, I probably should have done that better, or I wish I would have done this, or stuff
Yeah.
like that. But somebody that goes as hard as you do and looks at as many horses as you do, just having that eye and developing that experience to me is just something that no one can ever substitute for. Whether it's veterinary or what I do or just a job in general or
Yeah.
even rodeo and training horses. I mean, there is no substitute for reps, experience, and hard work ethic.
No, and I think that with the reps, you know, you have to learn from each rep. Like every time I look at a horse, whether it's from a training perspective or a veterinary perspective, I either verify something that I know or I learn something different. And either way I'm learning. And you know, it's okay to be wrong and have to try again. Like until you like quit trying, you're not done. They call it practicing medicine, and I it took me a while to figure that out because when I got out of school, I thought I knew more than I thought I did. We talked about this the other day. You know, you come out, you think you know a lot because you aced every test in school, you did well, and you're breezing through, and then you realize how much you don't know about year 3. I say because you gained enough life experience that you didn't know something exactly, but you fumbled your way through it. But year 3, you like really learn what you don't know, and then you have to dig even harder to keep getting to the next level, to keep progressing, keep learning, stay ahead of it. There's guys that I work with that have been practicing medicine longer than I've been alive. They know a lot more than I do. I might know some newer things or read a couple more research articles that are just published than them, but nothing I do is going to give me the life experience that they've got until I get the life experience that they've got.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you're right. You gotta stay hungry. You gotta stay working. And I've said it before on here. I learned more from the people that I couldn't fix than the ones that I, did help a lot. And just being able to humble yourself, be like, man, this isn't working, and then go back to the research or go find another way to help that person, help that horse, I think is super important. I mean, when you hit a roadblock, and then as you go throughout your career, you get more and more tools to where, you can go there a little quicker and be able to, side pass to a different technique or something else that didn't work. Because if you just keep trying the same stuff and it's not working, that's the definition of insanity. So, um, I think people that stay hungry and that step back and evaluate what did work, what didn't work, and then have an open mind about, there are other options. I just need to find them rather than just get frustrated and quit. Then you didn't help yourself get better. You didn't help the horse or patient get better. And you're not going to probably help the next person because you're likely to get stumped again with the same deal if you don't figure out this one. Because if you do this long enough, you're going to see, you might only see that thing every once in a while, but you're still going to see it. And to me, what separates the good from the great people is the ones that will take the extra time and go figure out another way and maybe innovate something themselves, and have the knowledge
Yeah.
of the working knowledge of the horse's structure or the human structure to be able to apply a technique that maybe isn't being used or has never been done, or just make your own technique up and write about it and then somebody else can use it. I mean, that's what practicing medicine, as you said, is all about. And it's ever evolving, and we've all the problem that you run into probably somebody else has ran into as well, and you can help that person
Yeah.
be able to help their patients better, their horses, their doctoring better. And so I think you're right, just to stay hungry, be able to be open-minded, and just admit, like, man, I didn't do this one right, or I might have missed this. Let's try this, and just have a different avenue to go each time, to try to help people out. And I think people appreciate that. They appreciate the honesty of, like, I don't have this answer right now, but I'm going to try my best. Or maybe this person could be able to answer this question because they see this more too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that right, like, knowing what some people see more is great, because even like some of the things I refer to surgery, like depending on what surgery it is, I'm like, if it's this surgery, this is who I would use. If it's this surgery, this is who I would use. Just because I know that surgeon personally, and I know I've most of them I've stood in the OR with, and I've like stood there and done surgery with them, and I know they're great at this. Like, this is who I'd want. Like in my practice, 95% all I do is watch horses jog all day and do lameness. And I mean, I went to vet school. If you ask me what vaccine the dog gets, I'm gonna be like, there's a rabies and a bordetella, and we probably should look up the rest of them because you don't get the reps of it, like we went back to talking about. But if I watch a horse jog, I usually can pinpoint exactly where we are and put my hands on it and figure out, what we need to do to fix it, because that's what I do. And they don't, anytime I have the opportunity to work with other vets, I get real excited, especially ones that I look up to or have admired or have years of experience on me, because you're going to learn something new that day. Like, whether they do an injection a little different way or they might use a different drug combination, it's just exciting to learn. And like you said, you put it in your toolbox in your back pocket and you've got it forever, like it that applies to life in general. Like, if that goes back to the horse, if you're having trouble, go ride with somebody, watch them ride it, see what they do. And pick somebody that, when I say this, pick somebody that's achieved what you would like to achieve. Whether it's, if you're a businessman, look up to a businessman that's had the success you would like to mimic. If it's for me, if it's a veterinarian, look up to a veterinarian that you respect and you're like, man, I hope one day I have that skill set. Because I mean, everybody's always evolving on different levels and moving up through their career. If it's training a horse, go ride with somebody that has had several really nice horses that you like. It's all relative in that way.
I agree. And especially early in your career, setting yourself up around good mentorship is just, it's so important. There's no substitute for it, because that can make or break your career. It can make or break your perspective, your skill set. Everything is setting up people around you that are either doing what you want to do or have the skill set that you want to do. I mean, you said it. You got to surround yourself with those people. And also another thing is um, being able to take things from those other vets or other, like for me, being able to hang out with a chiropractor or a physical therapist or an osteopath, and being able to take certain things that they do and adapt it to what I do, and just either learn how that body system works better, or learn how a different technique that they might use that I could use too, that would help people that I've never seen before. I mean, that stuff gets me excited, is being able to, observe different disciplines of medicine, and even when people work on horses and see the techniques they use on horses and be like, I wonder if I could. So if I did this on a person, and if that moves like that, I wonder if this would work. And just being able to see him, like, because I always, when I watch people work, I'm always thinking of that patient that I saw that I was like, that probably would have helped them. And um, we can't also, another point is, we can't be everything to everybody. And so being able to have a team to refer to is so important. I mean, there's like stuff that I'm definitely not strong in, but this person is. And being able to get somebody into the right hands, like you said, for surgeries or whatever else, and having building that network is just as valuable as your own skill set, is having a network of people, because it takes a whole, they call it a sports medicine team
Yeah.
at the school, and the sports teams and everything. It's a sports medicine team. You have the doc, you have the physical therapist, the athletic trainer, you got the strength coach. I mean, you have all of these people working together in order to help these athletes perform at their best. It's no different in the horse world. You got to have a team around your horse. You got to have somebody that can do the soft tissue work, the rehab, the vet work, the surgery stuff, and then be able to, like, where are you going to take your horse if the horse colics or has a general medical issue, and who's
Yeah.
going to catch that if it's a non-orthopedic issue. I mean, it's those people that are in it every day and study that stuff every day. That's your best shot for it to get better, rather than somebody that maybe doesn't see it every day, or doesn't have the experience or something. I mean, you're just limiting yourself by not having a good enough team around you. And that's hard. And it's also hard to find practitioners that want to be on the same team, and realize that um just because this person is trying to get some extra work in and everything else, or maybe you couldn't help them, but they're seeking out help because either they're trying to go to the next level, or they're just not getting quite where they need to be, and not taking it personal that they're going somewhere else, I think, is also important.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. I mean, just this week, I had another veterinarian that does osteopathic work call me about a horse I'd worked on a couple weeks ago, and she's like, "Hey, I just wanted to pick your brain on what you did." And I told her, I said, "This is what I saw on this day. What are you seeing today?" And she's like, "Oh, well, it's much better today. I'm going to do this, this, and this." I was like, "Great, let's see how it goes." I think for the most part, uh, when you hit a certain level, everybody's comfortable with their own skill set and they can work well with other people. I think when you see people that have a little bit of trouble collaborating like that, it's generally a self insecurity.
you
Uh,
you just said it, the collaboration, because and you alluded to it, collaboration happens at the top level. When you have a top level team that's collaborating, those people are high level, period. They're not worried about competition that's happening down here. They're worried about collaborating with the best, and surrounding themselves with people that either know more or better than them, or more disciplined in one area than the other. I mean, that you said it, you nailed it right on the head. And the other thing that has been resonating with me that I keep seeing is working to just improve yourself and focus on improving yourself instead of proving yourself. Because if you
yeah,
just try to prove yourself all the time, you won't have to prove yourself. That'll just happen naturally.
yeah, yeah. I think that when you see people trying to prove themselves, that's it's kind of cliche, but to me, that's a red flag. Like, you know, I I don't feel like I have anything to prove to anybody but myself that I want to improve and be better than I was yesterday. Like I want to do something today better than I did yesterday. And I'm going to feel like that was a win. And then it gives you, I mean, when you get, I call them wins. I set little goals every single day and I don't ever talk about them. But like if I had struggled with something yesterday, I want to do it better today. I'm going to do it better today before I go to sleep. One way or another, I'm going to figure out how to do it better today. And when I do that, it's a win in your head. I mean, not to get into psychology, but that causes an endorphin release. It makes you feel good, like you accomplished something. It keeps you breathing fire, wanting to do better. You know, if you're just trying to say, "I want to put a check by this that I did it and prove that you can do it," that's not the same as saying, "I want to do it better."
I agree. And especially early in my career, I was looking for validation from outside sources. I was wanting somebody to tell me I did a good job or whatever else. And then as I've grown as a professional, I've gotten more comfortable just being like telling myself, like, you did your best. Whether I helped them or I didn't help them, you did your absolute best. If I didn't help them, I'm going back and I'm trying to better myself so I can either help them the next time or, you know, help somebody else that needs that same help. And so it's a hard thing to do. And in both of our professions, I think ego is a thing that everyone, it's like the demon that you deal with. And so being able to set your ego aside and focus on your own journey and realize that you're going to make mistakes and forgiving yourself for those mistakes, but also celebrating small wins, like, man, I did this really good today, how can I build on that tomorrow? And because if I'm doing the same stuff, like if somebody comes to me that came to me 5 years ago and I'm still doing the same, I mean, and that's all that I know how to do is the stuff that I knew 5 years ago, and that's it. I'm
Mm.
I'm not growing. I'm not gonna be very good. This profession is ever changing, and yours is too. And so, being able to stay hungry, find new techniques, and have new stuff. I mean, even to the point of like the stuff that I do now versus 3 weeks ago. I added some new stuff that I didn't used to do before, even so much as 3 weeks to a month ago. Just
Right.
from working on a lot of different people and having different issues and running into different roadblocks and having to navigate that stuff. So yeah, all good points.
I think that, like you said, the big thing is just putting your ego aside and doing the work. And I can't tell you about your clients, but I can tell you like I work for. I mean, I've got some really successful clients, and I there are people I looked up to like as a child. One of them is like somebody I looked up to before I even had my driver's license. Um, you know, one of them even goes back to the 90s of when I was looking up to them. Like I wasn't even 10 years old yet, and I knew who they were. And I get to work with them now, and it's great. Um, but and I told him from the beginning, I said, "Hey, I'm just going to tell you, I probably don't know as much as the vet you used to use that retired." I said, "He just practiced medicine longer than I've been alive, but I'm going to give you the best effort on it, and I'm not going to rest until I get answers and solve problems for you." And just having that conversation has made that whole relationship great. And it's phenomenal just being honest and putting your ego aside, by saying, "Hey, I'm not there. Like these are the things I know how to do, and I do these things really well." And admitting that, like let's look at this. So, like the other day, that same person had a horse, and I was like, "Well, let's send it down there for one of the other vets that works for us. Let them look at it, see what they see." And we kind of came up with the same conclusion, and we still don't have a great answer. We know where the problem is, but we don't have an answer of what the problem is. Because on radiographs and ultrasounds, it's normal, but there's obviously pathology there. Um, and that relationship has really cultivated a lot of other business for me, but just by showing up and being humble.
Yeah, and I think that's whenever because I have a lot of friends that use vet and everything else, and everyone always says, um, the way that you care about your job and the way that you care about doing a good job and taking pride in your work and helping the horse the best you can, they can tell that you care. And that's why, they're always comfortable when you work on their horses. And that's why they feel comfortable referring you to people that they know and love, and then having you work on their horses, because these horses are like family, and we want the best hands on them. And we just want somebody that cares, whether you're at a point in your career where you know everything or not. I don't know if you ever know everything, but
No, I don't do.
that cares and is going to try their best seems to resonate with people more than somebody that's just absolutely high level, but maybe not going to give that horse the attention that they need and deserve, or the owner, and being able to explain to them why this is happening, or what it could be causing it and stuff like that, and trying to educate them on how to maybe prevent it in their horse, or what the next steps are.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on here, Dr. Doby. Gosh, your knowledge on maturity horses and just life in general is very valuable, and you have a really great approach to all of that. And so, thank you for your time. I know we talked about a lot of stuff today. We
Yeah,
spent good time talking about a lot of things, and I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share this with everybody. So, with that, I'll
of
close it
course.
out. Go ahead.
I said, of course. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Also, what if somebody was to get a hold of? What's the best way to get a hold of you and schedule with you?
That's a good question right now. So most of my scheduling I do on my own phone. I try to be diligent about getting back to everybody on there. It's hard, but I like for my clients that I do a lot of work for, I want them to have my phone, like call me day or night, call me till I answer if it's an emergency. I try to make myself available. Sometimes when I'm working or if I have sterile gloves on injecting horses, I don't get to my phone right away. But I mean, when they call me, that's usually the best way, and it's just works out best that way. Sometimes text messages work good too, just because it's written down and I can't forget it.
Yeah, I understand that. And you can go back and read it, and either mark it as unread and go back to it. That's sometimes what I have to do. I know that your schedule is full tilt, and it's a long day every day, so sometimes it's hard to find time to get back to everybody, and especially when you do such a great job and have so many clients. So man, we just appreciate everything you do.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for listening, and as always, make your health the pivot point to your success.